Hey, what's up YouTube? So I got a cool video to show you guys today. As many of you know, Horizon Hobby just got done discontinuing the MQx, which has been my faithful FPV quadcopter, only to replace it with the 180QX, which is basically exactly the same thing with a different control unit. So take a look here at the differences and the similarities between the MQx and the 180QX. So those of you guys who are familiar with the MQx will notice that the airframe on the 180QX is almost exactly the same. The propellers, the booms, the motor mounts, the gear reduction, and the central airframe piece are all basically exactly the same. Now there are a couple of little differences, one of which is the mounting holes on the main piece of the airframe where the booms attach, and I believe that they changed those just to make it a lot more inconvenient to slap this new control board into your MQx and not have to buy the 180. The 180 also comes with upgraded landing gear that make it raised a little bit higher off the ground so that you can sling the included camera underneath. But with our MQx build, we don't need those as our camera is mounted up top, which is a lot better for FPV. So here we have both boards. The one on the right side here, this is the original MQx board, and the one on the right here, I'm sorry, the left here, the other right, is the brand new 180QX control board. Now they're very similar. They're almost exactly the same, really. This one is a smaller form factor, but we have 4 brushed motor control units. We have 1 DSMX receiver, and then we have the stabilization equipment, which is going to consist of, on this one, 3-axis gyroscope and a 3-axis accelerometer, and this one is just a gyroscope. And those of you who are familiar with multi-rotors already might know that this one, because it has an accelerometer, also has auto level function, which means when you let go of the stick, the multi-rotor returns to level on its own, whereas this one does not. It just keeps flying off in the direction you left it. So this one is very preferable for FPV, but quite honestly, I don't want to pay $170 for a new airframe of an airframe that I already own that has this board. So for $65, I pick up this board at my local hobby shop, and I'm going to see if I can adapt it to work on the MQx. Now, the motors are exactly the same, the props are exactly the same, the arms are exactly the same, so it should be a drop-in fit, but we'll take a look just to be sure. Okay, so here is my MQx with the FPV gear installed. Now, if we pop off the canopy, you'll see some aftermarket things on here. I've got the video 200 milliwatt 5.8 video transmitter from getfpv.com installed here. Or no, I'm sorry, not getfpv, fpvhobby.com. Don't know why I confused the two. But if you guys aren't familiar with FPV Hobby, check them out. They have a lot of great 5.8 gear and a lot of great ultra micro gear, especially. 200 milliwatts on a package this size is almost unheard of. So I was duly impressed with that, and it's been flying awesome for me. I hang out here in my basement workshop, plug my receiver into the TV, and tool this thing all around the house. So it does. It's 5.8, so it's not got great object penetration. It tends to multipath, but with this much power on board, it's a lot less of an issue. So I'll move that away, and then we'll just take off all 4 screws that hold the main board on. And don't worry about losing these screws, too, because the bolt pattern of the new board is different, and we're not going to have it screwed down in the same manner. Okay, make sure to disconnect your rotors. And then the board just lifts off right like that. Now, this one, you'll notice that the white arrow here, this white arrow is always going to point toward the direction of travel. So we're going to put it right here, but when we do so, the bolt holes do not line up. So there's one way that we can get around that, and that's we're not going to attach it with the screws. We're going to attach it with some adhesive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to shave off the screw holes from the frame. Being careful not to cut those motor wires, or my fingers for that matter. One, and last one is right here. Got to get a little more leverage on this one. Okay, got it all off. Now, the way I'm going to mount this board is I'm going to use something that I built just for the occasion. Get this video transmitter battery out of the way. This is a piece of 1/4 inch neoprene foam with 2 pieces of double-sided tape on either side. I prefer the 3M viscoelastic tape because that you really got to work to get that stuff to loosen up. It does not come off. And the reason that we're using this 1/4 inch of neoprene is just to protect the board from vibration. A lot of the accelerometers can be relatively sensitive to vibration. So I'm kind of unimpressed that the 180QX does not have any sort of vibration dampening for the flight controller. I mean, it's cheap, but as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of bad practice to not isolate your flight controller, especially on a brushed setup and a geared setup, which are both going to be way more likely to have vibration problems than a direct drive brushless system would. Alright, so we got that mounted on there, and the way that you know it's mounted properly is that it'll just wiggle a tiny bit. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and cut off the extra adhesive tape here. Just gently trim it off. Making sure not to cut the board. Actually, I'm going to leave it because I'm going to attach this guy right on top. This is the receiver, or the transmitter rather, for the video. Now we just need to connect up our motors. Now the board does not come with shown polarization, so we're just going to connect the motors kind of randomly, and if they spin backwards then we'll reverse them, otherwise we'll leave them. Make sure to connect the motors into the motor blocks in the same order that they came off of the original MQx board. Okay, so there it is. Now let me zoom out and show you guys how this is going to look when we fire it up. Alright, so we're ready to go. I've already got this board bound on my DX8. We're going to go ahead and power up. And it's going to blink for a second while it calibrates for level. And there we go. It's showing that we have a control lock. Let's see if we've got anything spinning backwards. We've got this one spinning backwards, so we're just going to move, take the pins and flip them 180 degrees. Alright, now who else is spinning backwards? This one. So we're going to flip this one 180 degrees also. These sticky pads are going to be great because I can use them for cable management too, sticking down these little magnet wires. Alright, this one's rotating backwards, so we'll go ahead and flip that one. Oh man, can you believe it? I managed to plug every single motor in backwards. What are the odds? Impressive. All right, so this board is set up just a little bit differently than I'm sure you guys are used to, especially because it has that auto level mode. Right now we are in auto level, I believe. To switch out of it, we hit the gear switch on a Spectrum radio or any digital radio, and it'll automatically be on the gear switch. Right there, so that's auto level and that's auto level off. And other than that, I have not played around with this function yet for running the video camera, but I don't have one. I don't have a recording camera installed. I only have the FPV camera. So let's fly this thing around and see how she performs. All right, guys. So here we are, getting ready to take off with the auto level turned on. And one of the things that's great about this board that I noticed is it gets rid of that throttle cut when you punch the throttle. The old MQx board would, if you hit the throttle too hard, it would just cut out. Now let me show you how just great and precise this auto level is. I'll bring the quad over just a little bit. And there's my radio. Not touching it. And even in ground effect over there, it's flying on its own. It's flying awesome. So I'm really impressed. It's got a little bit of forward drift. So I might need to just play with the location of the board a little bit. But there is no GPS lock, so it will just drift a tiny, tiny bit from the accelerometer, a little bit of error in the accelerometers. Now if I switch back into this mode, this is non-auto level. Alright, so if I crank the quad one way, it'll just keep going. And that's not really good for FPV. As you can see, I just crashed. Alright, so let's put it back into auto level. That's a lot better. Now auto level significantly limits your dual rates, so make sure to have a setting mixed in. When you hit the gear switch, your dual rates go up. Right now I'm at 125% with 30% expo, which on this auto level, whoa, is just great for FPV. And the other thing that's awesome is it has cranked up my yaw rate like crazy. Look at this. Whoa! So it has definitely made the MQx a snappier machine in yaw. And it's also made it a lot easier to deal with in the air. So let me go ahead and get the FPV equipment put back on here, and I'll see how it handles a little bit of extra weight. Alright guys, so here we go. We've got the FPV gear attached. And the weight is, the addition in weight is noticeable, but it is totally still maneuverable. And I'm actually flying right now at a battery that's only about 40% charged. So half throttle, I'm climbing comfortably. The auto level is taking any nasty oscillation due to the weight out of the equation. So it's a lot less of a test of my flying skills. I can focus a lot more with this auto level on navigation, figuring out where in the house I am and where I'm trying to get to. Not have to worry about, where I'm drifting, where's the horizon at compared to my quad, where's the ground, where's the ceiling. I can just kind of sit back and fly, and I've still got an incredible amount of yaw. So if you like this video, guys, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe so I can keep making more for you. The total cost of this quad, as you see it, I bought it for 30 bucks on closeout, and then I put 65 bucks of board into it. Well, that would be MSRP. I paid less because I work at a hobby shop, but 65 would be MSRP. So all total, I paid about 95 bucks for this whole vehicle that you see here, minus the FPV gear. So don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe so I can keep bringing more great videos to you. And until then, have a good one.